And moving on to more updates, Cockroach Janta Party, the satirical online movement, which has gained massive traction in the last month, is all set to hold its first physical protest in New Delhi very shortly. Its founder, Abhijit Deepke, has arrived in New Delhi. Massive security arrangements have been made outside the Delhi airport. He has received permission from Delhi police to protest peacefully at Jantar Mantar. Police officials reportedly met him at the airport. Cockroach Janta Party has now asked protesters to arrive directly to Jantar Mantar and not to the Parliament Street police station, where they had earlier planned to gather and seek permission from the police. Climate activist Sonam Wangchuk will also be joining the protest in the national capital. The Cockroach Janta Party representatives have repeatedly demanded Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation in light of the NEET exam fiasco, numerous paper leaks over the last several years, and the lack of accountability from those in power. The CJP, which recently began as an online-only discourse and movement, gained massive traction on social media, highlighting the increasing frustration of Indian youth. Abhijit Deepke is a political communication strategist, who hails from Aurangabad in the state of Maharashtra. He studied journalism in Pune before moving to the United States for higher education. The Cockroach Janta Party was set up after Chief Justice Suryakant referred to young people who criticized the government as cockroaches and parasites during a hearing. Kant later said that his comments were taken out of context. And for the latest on this, we are now being joined by our correspondent, Dharamjot Kaur from Jantar Mantar in New Delhi. Dharamjot, tell us, where are you standing right now? What is the ground situation like as far as the security is concerned?
Well, people are slowly gathering here near Jantar Mantar, which is the designated spot for the protest, for which police gave permission just a short while ago. But the entire area has been cordoned off. If I could just ask my video journalist to pan the camera and show you on the other side where we've entered from, there is a lot of barricading, double, triple layer of barricading. There's been done over here. A lot of security checks that one has to go through to enter this designated protest site. So a lot of steps are being taken by security forces to ensure that the situation does remain calm, it does remain civil. As opposed to the number of people that we saw at Parliament Street Police Station, there are definitely more people who are present here at the designated protest site. The numbers are slowly swelling up, and the permission that police has given the Cockroach Janta Party is for 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it is going to be a long day. It remains to be seen how many people really do show up at this particular protest. We are seeing a few professors, we are seeing a lot of youngsters who are present over here. I'm going to pan quickly to the other side and show you what it's like. Just about 15 to 20 meters away, if you could take a quick look, you are seeing a lot of posters, a lot of youth that is present near the gate, a lot of posters of Bhagat Singh, a lot of posters of B.R. Ambedkar, slogans which are demanding the resignation of the education minister. All of these chants and the entire movement is very slowly building and swelling up right now. But it is still very early hours to say how successful this entire movement is. We've seen its popularity grow literally overnight in terms of the online discourse and their digital footprint. But how much of that really translates here on the ground, that is the big question.
That's right. Their popularity has grown overnight online, and we'll see how much it pans out on the ground. And clearly, the crowd is gathering. Dharamjot, have you been able to talk to any people over there? What are their reactions? What are the expectations as far as the protest is concerned, for which they've received permission until 5 p.m. today?
Well, there are pamphlets that the CJP protesters and representatives are giving out, and they list about a few reasons over here, if I could just quickly read that out. And that is also what you're hearing from a lot of youngsters who are present over here. The NEET paper leak fiasco clearly was a big trigger point for this. That is the reason and the cause for this protest. But again, coming back to the main trigger point, that was the Chief Justice's remark where he called a lot of the youth and referred to them as cockroaches, which is what triggered the online movement and discourse on digital platforms. But But in terms of what the agenda for this protest is, they're listing it as the NEET paper leak, which they say affects 22 lakh students that have been left in a very uncertain situation. There's an on-screen marking system that they're talking about, the entire CBSE evaluation fiasco that is also unfolding in the past few days, and a lot of other overall examinations, competitive exams that, has seen a lot of systemic disruption, has seen a lot of loopholes that have been brought to the fore. So clearly a lot of education-related movement, which is also turned into a broader discourse about employment, about youth anger towards systems not working properly. So that is what the CJP is peddling as its main cause and its main agenda for the protest that is being held here today.
Right. So, Dharamtu, that's all about, the agenda of the protest today. But right now, as the crowd is still gathering, what is the traffic situation like? Are there any blockades that people are witnessing? And is there, any tough situation as far as the traffic is concerned? Have there been a lot of blockades?
Well, there is a lot of police presence on the ground that is coordinating with traffic police officials as well. There are a few diversions in and around this entire area. Parliament Street had a couple of diversions, especially in front of the lane in front of where the police station is. Of course, this entire area of the Jantar Mantar also has, barricading at multiple entry points. So people can only arrive at this location on foot, at least for the last 50 to 100 meters. They have to walk in to arrive at this location. No vehicles have been allowed beyond a certain point. Apart from that, main traffic does not seem to be disrupted as much. We do see a lot of traffic police presence around this entire area that is trying to ensure that the flow of traffic and vehicles remains smooth. But again, it is still very early hours. Depending on how many people turn up, depending on what direction this movement takes, how successful it is, and how large it becomes, that will also have a ripple effect in terms of daily movement and daily civil life here in New Delhi.
Right. Dharamjot, any word on how soon Abhijit Deepke is going to reach the location?
Well, he is en route. Last we heard, he got permission from police directly at the airport. That was about half an hour back, so he should be here sometime soon. He is being escorted by the police as security officials have been making announcements to everyone to directly reach this particular designated forum for protest. So he is en route. We expect him to be here soon. Again, the official timing of the protest is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I think that's the window that we're looking at. About 10:15 is when Abhijit Deepke will be seated out.
Right. And DJ, what are people saying as far as the translation that we have been talking about? The party has gathered a massive support online, but on ground, how much more can be expected? It's still some time when the protest starts. It's about, it starts in about 10 to 15 more minutes. But what is the situation looking like? How much more participation can be expected?
Well, there are quite a few people present over here. There is sloganeering that's been happening in the background for a little while now. But again, do people turn out from around New Delhi, from other cities at this protest? That is the big question. We don't know. It had been announced on the social media platforms a few days in advance. But again, the CJP as a movement has not only excited people, it has also confused people. It has also made people very curious. Because it started as a satirical political movement with digital-only discourse, and it has now trying to establish a more physical presence. It appointed spokespersons a couple of days ago who did their first press conference here in New Delhi. So the identity of the CJP and what the entire structure really entails, all of those things are, people are still confused and curious about it. So clearly a lot of people will be testing waters in terms of seeing how this movement pans out, in terms of understanding how serious representatives of the Cockroach Janta Party are in terms of taking all of these youth-centric issues forward, and if at all something tangible really emerges from it. So it is a litmus test for the CJP, especially from the youth lens of the country, to see how this really pans out, and if at all there is more physical discourse in the future, more on-ground presence, this particular movement will set the tone for it.
Right. And, we have been talking about how this has panned out from an online portal, online movement, and now it is taking shape on ground. Basis what you're gathering on the ground, does it look like it can make a big political impact?
Well, again, that really depends on how the Cockroach Janta Party ultimately ends up defining itself. Till about 3 weeks to 4 weeks ago, it was only a satirical movement. And now, a couple of days ago, one of their spokespersons defined themselves as a political pressure group. So we are seeing the entire movement and its main core leadership even evolve the identity of the Cockroach Janta Party. Let's not forget, this started with a remark made by the Chief Justice, and it was compounded by a lot of youth-centric issues related to the education system. So it appears that the founders and the core team is still trying to really draw out an entire framework of what the CJP is really about and what kind of a role can they really play on ground. Because they've succeeded online, but online is a completely different battle. You know, the stakes are lower, the safeguards are higher, and people are more open in terms of talking and expressing themselves. How much of that really translates on the physical ground in terms of the real issues that the youth of the country is really worried about? What kind of physical translation that sees is going to be a big question, and all of that really determines on how the CJP is defining itself in this moment. And that definition of late has changed quite a bit.
Right. Thank you so much, Dharamjot, for taking us through all of those details. We'll keep coming back to you for updates from the ground. Well, yes, that's the big question right now. How much of it translates into on-ground movement? While it has been a successful movement online, and we'll see how it shapes up on the ground. Well, yes, that's the latest coming from Jantar Mantar.